It's 123 days till the man burns, and today we're talking about some unwritten etiquette, because some etiquette you only find out about once you have already broken that etiquette rule. So if you've been reading anything, you probably already know about darkwads, people that go out at night in the dark and do not light themselves up. But you may not know about lightwads. Those are the people that forget that they are wearing head torches and just light blind you at night. They start talking to you and they are just flashing that torch straight into your eyes. Don't be a lightwad. If you are chatting to someone, you have a head torch, pull it down so it's on your neck and it's pointing at the ground instead of someone else's face. Everybody forgets this at least once, but the person you're talking to will probably let you know by going, your torch, it's in my face. Burning Man is set up to resemble kind of a town or city with streets and cross streets. And in the real world, you wouldn't just walk through someone's garden or someone's house to get where you're going. And the same thing is considered polite at Burning Man. Don't just cut through people's camps to get where you're going, use the streets. Because it gets kind of annoying if you and your campmates are just hanging out in camp and people just keep traipsing a load of player dust through everything. Especially if those people don't even say hi to you, they just are literally walking through your space pretending that you don't exist. If for any reason you do want to cut through someone's camp, ask them first. Just be like, oh, hey, do you mind if I just scoot across your camp? And usually that is enough to keep people happy. Sometimes you might hear people suggesting that you drink some water and get some shade. And sometimes it just means that that person thinks maybe you need some water and shade because you look like you do. But sometimes it means that you are being a bit of a grouch or that you are behaving in a not okay way and people think that maybe you're acting a bit out of character and you need to go and get some shade and water. It's kind of a polite way of telling someone to either adjust their attitude or to go away. So if someone says that to you, it might be time for you to just quiet down a bit and drink some water or to, go away for a little while until you are feeling back to your normal cheery self. I've mentioned before the Portaloo etiquette of not hovering. That is pretty well known. Do not hover unless there is a serious reason why you need to be hovering. And if you are going to hover, lift the seat. There's a couple of other bits of Portaloo etiquette. So knocking on the door. People have this weird thing where they see a Portaloo and instead of knocking to see if anyone's in there, they just try and aggressively rip open the door. Do not do that. Knock on the door. That's why by the end of Burning Man, so many Portaloos are broken, the locks have just been ripped off because people have just been yanking on the door. And it's bad enough being in a Portaloo. It is even worse when you are in a Portaloo that has no lock and at any moment someone might just rip open that door and give anyone on the player a full view of whatever you are doing in there. It's also considered good form that if you do come across a Portaloo that, is in nice condition, that you tell people on the way out. Don't make them play the game where they have to open the door and be like, what's behind door number 1? A horror show. Just tell them, this one is good. Likewise, if you discover one that's really bad, let people know. Be like, this one is for the brave and the desperate and no one else. Some of the theme camps that give out drinks, they consider it poor etiquette if you kind of just come and get a drink and then leave again. And others don't. So you kind of have to guess whether the place you're in is the kind of place where you should stay and drink your drink there, or whether they're going to be cool with you just grabbing a drink and going on your way. I would say that if it's quite a small theme camp or it's really not very busy in there, then, maybe hang out, drink your drink there, have a little chill before you go on your merry way. I already did a whole video on nude etiquette, which I will try and link here if I can figure out how. But if you are going to go nude, probably the biggest piece of etiquette is to just bring something to sit on. Not everyone is going to want your bare butt rubbing all over their camp. So, bring a scarf or a towel or something you can just pop down before you park your tushy. For the theme camps that give out booze, a lot of them will ask for ID as well, especially if you look quite young. Because they're being held to the same rules as the real world. They cannot give alcohol to underage people. And if they get caught, they get huge, huge fines. So some people will photocopy their ID and attach it to their cup. And if you are quite clearly old enough to be drinking, that will usually be enough. But technically it's not a valid form of ID. So if you do look quite young, it may not be enough. You may need to carry around with you some kind of proper identification. And some of these camps will just blanket, they will ask everyone for ID. It doesn't matter how old you look, they are still going to ask you for ID and not give you a drink if you don't give it to them, because They don't want to take the chance of getting fines. The people running the theme camps are often, a big mix of all different people. They're not all, bartenders that are used to trying to guess people's ages. And a way that they protect themselves is just say, everyone has to give ID and then we have nothing to worry about. So don't give people hassle if you're like, look, I'm 60. I am old enough. Because, maybe it is just a rule for that camp and they have to be doing that thing. And, that's their gift to the community as well. You shouldn't be giving people hassle for trying to give a gift and not get a huge fine for it. It seems like feathers are allowed back in for 2017, but they are still massively frowned upon. Because more experienced burners, they have lived through the moop crisis that feathers can create. So I'm not saying that you can't wear feathers, if they're allowed, they're allowed. Just make sure that any items that you bring that have feathers on them, the feathers are very, very securely attached and that you are dealing with any moop that they create. Ask your friends to help you out. Get them to just keep an eye on whatever you're wearing if you are worried about bits of it falling off so that they can tell you if anything looks loose and like it might be about to fall off. Because it is your responsibility. If things fall off of your costume, it's your responsibility to pick them up and not let them become moop. If you are going to be doing drugs, it's considered polite to be doing them in private and keeping all that paraphernalia somewhere private. Because if a law enforcement officer catches you doing drugs in the middle of your camp, it can be a good enough reason for them to search your entire camp. And your campmates are probably not going to appreciate it too much if they discover that everything has been tossed and it was all because of you. You've probably heard the saying, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. The same is true of Burning Man. If you bump into, say, your buddy from work and he is nude, that should stay at Burning Man. Don't go back to work and be like, oh, hey, I saw Dave naked at Burning Man. Don't turn it into office gossip. Even within your camp, with your camp friends, don't go back to the real world and be like embarrassing them or outing them with things that they may not want other people to know about. Everyone should be free to do their own thing and express themselves however they want to at Burning Man without the fear of getting shamed when they're back in the real world. So, before you go opening your big mouth and telling other people about what such and such did, just consider whether or not that person would really want other people to know that thing. These last two are considered etiquette. I consider them just being a nice person or a decent human being. But, lend a hand if you see someone and their bike's broken down or they're struggling to put up a structure or, they're having a really emotional time and maybe just need someone to ask them if they're okay. Do those things. Help people out. Be nice to the other people around you. And leave things either in a nicer state than when you found them or at the very least, the same state as you found them. If you use a portaloo, leave it in the same state you found it. Maybe give the seat a little wipe for the next person. If you're in a theme camp, don't be just leaving moop everywhere. Pick up after yourself. I'm sure that the theme camps have enough problems with people coming into their camp and just ditching their moop there. Don't be one of those people. Take that stuff with you, deal with it yourself. Self-reliance. Other people are not there to clean up after you or deal with the messes that you create. So be considerate of other people. No, someone else is going to use this portaloo after me, so I'm going to try and not mess it up. Or I've just made a huge mess in camp, so I'm going to clean that up and deal with it and not just leave it for other people. So that's it, guys. I hope this was helpful, and if any of you can think of any other unwritten etiquette rules that people should know about, then let us all know in the comment section below. And as always, if you see me at Burning Man this year, feel free to come and say hi. Bye, guys.